Alright, so since I'm planning to make some guides about Paragon, where I'm gonna use a lot of the heroes' names and stuff, I wanted to show you all the heroes, their stats, which role I would define them as. This is just gonna be me casually going over it. It's gonna be unedited. I might mess up from time to time, but bear with me. Please keep in mind this is early access. This is actually from OT10. I'm recording now because I want to be sure I have enough content for my guide when I start it, so people can start playing instantly the 18th and know what they're going into. There are some bugs with the tooltips, I noticed, especially Feng Mao and stuff. So yeah, keep alpha in mind. If we start with Deca, she has 1 basic attack, 6 ability power, 4 durability, 6 mobility, and 5 difficulty. Her affinities are order and growth. She's kind of a tank support character. Important to say, all the characters have a passive and 5 active abilities. For Deca, her passive is called Mana Share. When Deca uses an ability, she grants nearby allies a percentage of the mana she expended to cast it. So this actually adds up a bit in team fights. So whenever she uses some of her mana, some of it will go to nearby allies. Which means if there's 4 people around it can actually be quite effective. Again, considering the fact she's a support, or enforcing it rather. Her left click is simply just Energy Orb. Ranged basic attack dealing 49-95 energy damage. Her right click is called Rocket Boost. Directional leap that grants nearby allies 150 max movement speed for 3 seconds. So this is a directional sort of upwards jump. It's Deca's escape, Deca's way of getting out, especially of her ultimate or Gideon's ultimate stuff. Yeah, I apologize for the sound, I currently have TeamSpeak open and I might get ping sounds. Just ignore it. Also yeah, and it's also give max movement speed for allies. Her Q is a Stasis Bomb. It's a bouncing bomb that deals 75 energy damage in an area and stuns a direct hit. Stun duration increased based on how far traveled. So it's an orb that you sort of lob, you sort of throw it, and it can hit the ground. And if it hits an enemy, it stuns, but it's quite hard to hit, honestly. So it's often preferred to be pretty close with her. Her E is called Slow Bubble. AoE bubble slows enemies and deals 60 damage once it pops. This can be made to do relatively much damage if you play her as an energy based character. But again, she's mainly support, so the big and important thing about it is the fact that it slows. And this area is actually really big and it slows for quite a bit. That alone can be the thing to fight. So her ultimate is called Containment Fence. It's a circular fence that lasts for 5 seconds and grants allies inside a 250 shield. For anybody who's played other MOBAs, it will be the equivalent to Odin's ultimate Smite or Jarvan's ultimate in League of Legends. Except for the fact she throws it in front of her, or can throw it in front of her, instead of being forced to go where she is. Enemies and allies can't leave. I don't even think they can. Right now they can't even enter, but an ally can shoot out from inside the shield, kill enemies, but nobody can shoot it. So this is a bit of a double-edged sword. In one way it can save an ally, but if you fuck up it can also be the thing that kills them. So secondly we have Feng Mao. He has Fury and Order Affinity. He has 7 basic attack, 2 ability power, 5 durability, 7 mobility and 7 difficulty. He is what I would define as a bruiser, a fighter. He's a character that's meant for longer fights while still dealing a ton of damage. So it's not an assassin situation where you get out, but rather a situation where you chase people and kill them in 1 vs 1 duel combat. Sorry. Abilities. I will leave his passive for last because it's quite interesting. His left click is a sweep, simply a melee attack. His right click is called Conversion Shield. A shield that lasts 2 seconds and absorbs 150 damage. The last part is about but with a passive, so I'll explain that later. So basically, he generates a shield for 2 seconds that will absorb a bit of damage. At first I found it kind of useless due to it only being 2 seconds. But later I really started appreciating it. For example, if you're getting hit by a tower, or if you were Twin Blast ultimate, or if you know something big was coming. He's notoriously known for like tower diving. His Q is a Reaping Dash. Feng Mao throws out an image of himself. When it collides with an enemy hero or reaches max distance, he will teleport to the image. The image deals 40 physical damage to all minions it passes through, and a single hero it collides with. So it's a dash that deals damage to all minions. It looks like a teleport rather than a dash, to like if you consider the speed of it. And it's his way of either getting in or getting out of the fight. This is the problem I talked about. Right now the tooltip is bugged, but Hamstring is basically an AoE area he makes around himself. Or he makes an AoE attack that slows all nearby enemies. His ultimate is called Earth Shatter. Feng Mao slams his blade on the ground, dealing 400 physical damage to all enemies in line in front of him. During the attack, he will briefly gain 100 shield. So, unlike most attacks that's ground-based or like circle-based, Feng Mao actually has a line attack, and you have to be really good to hit it. You have to aim carefully. So now you know, you can see he has damage and he has shield, which brings back to the passive. Feng Mao builds stacks of offensive and defensive power for the use of his abilities, blocking with Conversion Shield, this one, or using Reaping Dash, this one, will grant offensive stacks for sweep damage, his standard attack. Dealing damage with sweep, his standard attack, or his E, his AoE damage thingy, will add defensive stack for the shield. So it's something that encourages him to mix playstyles rather than just only doing attack or only being shielded. Gadget is only intellect affinity. She's 2 basic attack, 8 ability power, 2 durability, 3 mobility, and 4 difficulty. She's a typical mage, wave clearer character something in this game. Well, being spammed. Right. She's a typical mage, wave clearer thing. Which you can see in the humbles of it. Haywire. Gadget deals 5 increased damage to minions. Her left click is just another plasma ball range basic attack. Her right click is called Seek and Destroy. Gadget fires a slow moving butt that can be reactivated to stop and begin dealing 80 energy damage and slowing enemies in range for 3 seconds. So she sends out this butt that will... It has a decent range, but it goes in a straight line, and at any point in that line you can click, right click again to make it stop and deal damage on the area. Q is called Sticky Mine. This is like the strongest ability of Gadget. Gadget tosses a mine that will attach to any unit within the area. Enemies are prioritized. After 6 seconds, the mine explodes, dealing 80 damage. So this is an ability that deals a lot of damage late game, but as I said, it will take 6 seconds to actually deal damage. Those who played League of Legends can imagine Cillian's bombs, except you can't blow them up automatically or manually. To get away from the situations where she is waiting for the bomb to go off, she has something called the Speed Gate, her E ability. Gadget deploys a gate that will speed up allies and deal up to 50 energy damage to enemies inside of it. So, I've sadly seen some people use this as damage dealer, but it's a very poor choice. This almost doubles her attack speed or movement speed, considering she's not in travel mode. So it's great for getting in and out of situations. Her ultimate is called Tesla Dome. Gadget's Tesla Dome deals 450 energy damage over 5 seconds to all enemies in the area. So it's basically this huge half bubble, half dome area, where everybody inside of it will take damage every second. It has no slow, it has no pull, and therefore it's quite easy to get out of, but if you throw it in the middle of a big wave, or if you throw it in the middle of a team fight, you can really get some damage in. It also goes extremely well with Dekka's ultimate and Gideon's ultimate. Excuse me. Then we have Gideon. Gideon is another mage. He has intellect and corruption affinity. He has 2 basic attack, 9 ability power, 3 durability, 7 mobility, and 4 difficulty. His passive is called Energy Pierce. Gideon has a small amount of free Energy Pierce. Energy Pierce is the what is usually called magical penetration. It's the stat that allows you to ignore energy defenses. This means that enemies that doesn't build any defense will take full damage for him because he will pierce the small amount of basic energy defense they will have. His left click is another basic range attack, scaling on energy damage. His right click, called Burden, is a projectile that creates a tether, which is like a line or a link, to an enemy hero dealing 50 energy damage and slowing for 3 seconds. This is really good for chasing or when you want to run away. Like if you throw the slow and just run the opposite direction, you will have a very hard time following. His Q ability is called Cosmic Rift. Meteors fall from the sky, dealing 100 energy damage over 2 seconds. This is the strongest ability in the game and allows Gideon to be one of the best wave clearers next to Gadget. This is the ability to always max out and always deal the most. It's the one that deals the most damage on him. His E is his escape ability called Torn Space. Teleport to a target location 850 miles away, or units away. It's this teleport that he can decide where he wants to throw and he will end at the other end. It's really good because it can go both upwards and downwards. You can't go through walls, but if you, for example, if you stand under a wall and you can look up at the top of it, you can teleport up to the top of it. That can allow you to get away in fights. For example, if you jump down and make the enemy follow you down, then jump back up. It's very effective escape. But it's also quite necessary for his ultimate called Black Hole. Channel ability that slowly pulls enemies towards Gideon, dealing 450 energy damage over 5 seconds. Gideon gains a small shield and is immune to crowd control when he finishes channeling the ability. So this ultimate has multiple parts. It's a channel ability. It gives him immune. It makes him immune to crowd control, or CC as it's often known. It pulls in enemies, but you don't imagine like a slingshot pull. Imagine that he has a rope on every enemy that slows them down a lot if they move outwards, and if they stand still, they'll get pulled closer. You can't walk out of it, but you walk very slowly, and you will usually be dead before Gideon's ultimate is over. On the other hand, it's a channeling, and he's completely immobile when he uses it, so he can still take damage, and it leaves him very, very vulnerable for burst ultimates like Twin Blast or other AD carries. We have Grox. He has a Fury and Corruption Affinity. He has 6 basic attack, 1 ability power, 6 durability, 5 mobility, and 3 difficulty. He is a bruiser, fighter character, like Feng Mao. His passive is called Only the Strong Survive. Grox permanently gains 5 max health every time he kills a unit. This is a passive that gets stronger the better you are using it, so early game it doesn't really matter a lot, but late game, if you've been farming for the entire game, you're very, very, very strong. But it does require you to farm a lot. Standard melee attack called Chop. His right click is Double Pain, melee range cleave attack dealing 50 physical damage and applying bleed to all enemies. Bleed is 1% of target's max health over 5 seconds. So this is like a 60-degree arc in front of him where he will deal damage. The bleed is somewhat neglectable right now, but that's a balancing issue, but he actually deals quite a bit of damage if you max it up. His Q is called Smash and Grab. Cone AoE that pulls all enemy units to Grox and deals 80 damage. So Grox will like smash down into the ground in a cone shape in front of him, and after a second it will pull all enemies towards him, allowing him to stay in range within them. His E is called Charge. Grog charges forward 1,200 units, dealing 50 physical damage to all enemies in his path. Pretty straightforward. He charges in a straight line. It can either be used as an engage or as an escape. His ultimate calls Warlord's Challenge. Grog stuns all nearby enemies for 0.5 seconds and gains bleed and basic attack, 60 physical damage, and 100 fixed max movement speed for 6 seconds. So the half a second, the half a second stun seems quite bad if you just read it, but when you're in game, you very much appreciate it. The stun is not made for keeping the enemy stunned; it's made for stopping channeling ultimates like Twin Blast. And the main part of it is that you get a massive damage buff and movement speed buff. Then we have Howitzer. Howitzer is, you can either confirm him as a carry or as a mage. He's Fury and Intellect. He has 2 basic attack, 8 ability power, 2 durability, 4 mobility, and 3 difficulty. His passive is called Fast Reload. Kills or assists reduce active cooldowns by 20%. His left click is a range attack that deals 10% splash damage to nearby enemies. His right click is called Slow Grenades. Fires 3 proximity bombs in an arc that explodes for 50 energy damage and slows enemies. So right now it's not really an arc, it's like a straight line in front of him. So you throw these 3 mines and you have like a second's arming time. And then it will stay for something like 5 to 10 seconds, or until an enemy gets close to them. His Q is called Rocket. Fires a long-range rocket that deals 85 energy damage. So this is sort of his snipe ability, finisher, whatever to call it. It goes very well with his ultimate. When you click the ability, you have this huge circle where it will hit within, but if you stay charged for like a second, then it will like narrow down. You can hit almost always precisely. His E is called Landmine. Places a mine will explode after 5 seconds, knocking any enemies and Howitzer back and dealing 50 energy damage. Ability can be reactivated to detonate early. So this is one of the most useful abilities I've found in the game so far. Not to say that's bad. But he basically places this mine on the ground and he can activate it, and depending on where an enemy or himself is according to the mine, they will get knocked back. So for example, if an enemy is trying to run away, if you throw a mine in front of him and activate it, you can throw it back into you. Or if you're trying to run away, you can throw a mine under yourself, and which will allow you to knock back the enemy and knock forward yourself. I've been saved more than a few times by this. His ultimate is called Make It Rain. Howitzer rockets into the air and fires on a volley of missiles target area for 150 energy damage over 4 seconds. Last missile does 50% total damage. So he jumps into the air and makes this huge area. Imagine it sort of small rockets will rain down for most of the 4 seconds, and then at the end it will drop a nuke that will deal half the total damage. So the main thing you want to get is to hit the nuke rather than the small rockets. And in the air you can use your rocket. So once you use in the air, you can stay longer in the air by firing your rocket, and you basically can hit almost anybody trying to run away. Then we have Kalari. She is an assassin, and she's like the assassin right now. As you can see, she has 5 attack power, 10 ability power, 1 durability, meaning she has the lowest durability in the game right now, 8 mobility and 9 difficulty. Kalari is very much a character that you get in, you do 1 attack and then you run out. If you stay too long, you're just gonna die. Her passive is called Marked for Death. Kalari and teammates gain vision of any enemy hero below 25% max health. This means that if there's an enemy hero below 25% health anywhere in the map, you can see them through the walls, you can see them on the minimap. Even when Kalari is dead, this happens. Her left click is a simple slash. Her right click is a backflip. flip into the air up to 2 times. Each flip costs 26 max mana. So this is a mobility ability that allows her to gank from the jungle. Since the jungle is sort of downwards from the lane, she can jump directly into the lane and go behind enemies. Her Q is called Shadow Walk. Enter the Shadow Plane and gain 113 max movement speed. Killing an enemy hero reaches cooldown. So one thing that's very important to notice in this phrase, or 2 things, is that 1, it resets on kills, and 2, this is invisibility, but this game is not called invisibility, it's called the Shadow Plane, which is like another plane of existence. And when she's in the Shadow Plane, you can see other heroes in the Shadow Plane. Your entire team can see all the other heroes in the Shadow Plane and the other way around. So basically, if Kalari goes stealth, the enemy Kalari can also go stealth, and like both stealth sort of cancel out. It's also the same state which happens when you're in the small, foggy, bush areas thingies that will stealth you. Her E is called Blood Dagger. Kalari throws a dagger dealing 120 physical damage and applying 1 bleed stack. Bleed does 1% of target max health over 5 seconds. So this is her only damage ability other than her ultimate. It's pretty straightforward and can deal a lot of damage, especially when you stack damage. Sorry. Her bread and butter is her ultimate called Death Sentence. It's very dramatical, isn't it? Dash in a line, passing through enemies, dealing 400 physical damage. Kalari penetrates all physical armor of targets who are marked for death. So everybody who's under 25% health will take full damage, and it will ignore all armor. So this is basically, Kalari has to get invisible, go into a fight, use dagger, use ultimate, and then quickly get out again. She can't do extended fights. And her ultimate, late game, deals 17 or 1800 damage. It's absolutely crazy if you know what to do with it. On the other hand, it's very hard to hit and you have to get very, very close. Then we have Murdoch. He is Fury and Intellect. He's an energy-based carry who uses his basic attacks most, as you can see. Basic attack 10, ability power 5, 2 durability, 1 mobility and 5 difficulty. His passive called Hot Pursuit. Murdoch has 18 bonus max movement speed. Pretty straightforward. He moves faster. Standard basic attack. His right click is sort of a double spell. It blocks a percentage of damage in front of him. The value is wrong, don't worry about it, tooltip fail. It blocks damage in front of him, but he can click it again to knock back nearby enemies if he's very close to them. So you can either use it to shield yourself, or you can use it to knock back the enemies. As far as I'm aware, there's no limit to how long you can shield, but you can't stand out attack while shielding. And it only shields something like 15% or 20% or something. So it's nothing game breaking. His Q is called Buckshot. Fires a blast in a cone that deals 54 energy damage and reduce energy armor by 60. So this is basically like a shotgun shot. You have to be very close for it to hit, and it has like a very wide spread. His E is a static trap. Place a trap that deals 50 damage and applies 50% slow for 2 seconds to the first enemy hero that walks over it. So these traps right now, they last indefinitely, but you can only have like 5 of them. The traps themselves are not that strong, but they can force an enemy to sort of have to dodge or not go directly forward. And it pairs very well with the fact that you get rooted if you take damage while trial mode. So it's a very good anti-gank mechanism to put it on the path to your lane. And his ultimate, a personal favorite of mine, is called Devastating Blast. Long range blast that can be shot through anything and deals 340 energy damage. So imagine Locke's ultimate, you can go through all walls and it will deal damage to anybody it hits. It has roughly like half a map length, it's not global. And it doesn't actually scale that much in damage, but it's very, very good for picking off low health targets. Then we come to Muriel. Isn't she beautiful? Muriel, she has growth and order affinity. 1 basic attack, 5 ability power, 3 durability, 6 mobility, and 4 difficulty. Muriel in this game is like the support right now. She's the only one I would call a support. She doesn't have any damage, but she can keep people alive for a ludicrous amount of time. Her restoration, her passive. Nearby allies that have shield receive increased health regen. Left click, standard attack core. Right chord is called Electricity. Orb that applies 135 shield and extra max movement speed to allied heroes. So this is like an orb she throws directly. It has quite a long range, so she can either directly throw it at a hero or throw it at the ground and people can pick it up. Only allies can pick it up though. Her Q is called Serenity. Muriel fires a projectile that passes through enemy minions, dealing 75 energy damage, and hit enemy heroes, dealing 75 energy damage and applying slow. So this, the best part about this and the most fitting for her is the fact that it slows. You can build her as a mage and get to do some damage, but I wouldn't recommend it, it seems like a waste. Her E is called Consecrated Grounds. Muriel deploys an AoE bubble that applies 100 shield to allies and does 60 energy damage to enemies touching it when it pops. So another shield. This should only be used for shield. There's no limit to how many times you can apply as far as I'm aware. So you throw the bubble on the ground and an ally loses shield, he can go back into the bubble and get full shield again, but it only lasts for like 2 seconds, the bubble. So it's not that strong. Her ultimate's very cool, very interesting. Muriel flies to a targeted ally anywhere on the map. The ally instantly receives a shield upon arrival. Enemies receive the 250 shield and all enemies get a knockback. So what this is that she can always see all allies on the map. When she activates the ultimate, she can look at a hero's health bar, and when she activates it, she will give the hero a shield and fly into the air and fly down and land upon the hero. And around the hero there's this ring, and enemies inside the ring will get knocked up and allies inside the ring will get a shield. She's very, very strong right now as a support. She can turn the game alone. Like, she needs a good damage dealer, but a mediocre team with an insane support will basically beat a good team. Rampage, one of my favorite heroes and one of my main heroes. He has growth and fury. Rampage is sort of like a fighter, but he's basically an uber tank. He has 4 basic attack, 2 ability power, 8 durability, 7 mobility, and 3 difficulty. His passive is called King of the Jungle. Health regen increases to double, up to double depending on missing health, and all healing effects increase by 20% while in jungle. As you can see, he's made for a jungler. Sorry. His left click is standard physical attack. His right click is called Pounce. Short leaf, dealing 60 physical damage to all nearby enemies. 30% bonus physical damage to cause to critically wounded targets. That would be everybody with like a red flashing border. Roughly, you're critically wounded, roughly 30 or under 35% HP. Roll greatly increases the range of Pounce. Swipe cause Rampage to slay him down early. So it's his E called Feral Roar, which is an AoE movement speed bonus buff to himself and nearby allies. So what you do is, if you have Pound, you have this sort of mediocre, you can't actually chase anybody. But if you use Roar first, you can jump 5 times or 7 times longer. And on Pound, you can always just left click to smash down into the ground and deal damage to the enemy. So you don't have to aim it to always hit the enemy exactly. You just have to like aim above them and then be sure to click at the right time. His Q is called Boulder Throw. Rampage throws a boulder that deals 100 physical damage and stun the enemy for 2 seconds. So this is a skill shot. It's like a lobbed. It's sort of like Dekka's bubble. Her bubble slow. Oh, sorry, bubble stun. Except it doesn't bounce this one, so you have to hit it. It's a very effective engage. His ultimate is called Enraged. Rampage become enraged, gaining 1,300 max health and up to 10% bonus physical damage for the next 15.5 seconds. Activation resets Pound's cooldown and maxes his range, can be cancelled for reactivation. So this is basically what you call an oh fuck button. So if you go into a fight, you start by enraged pouncing. Go into the middle of an enemy, you start taking a lot of damage. You use your ultimate, you get a ton of health, and you can either keep smashing them or you can run away by jumping out because you still have max range on your pounce. One thing that's worth noting though is that in your ultimate you cannot use your Q, so always be sure that you can fight without the stun, or always use it before you jump in. Sparrow, she's an AD carry, or yeah, another carry. She has the affinities, growth, and order. She has 10 basic attack, 5 ability power, 2 durability, 1 mobility, and 5 difficulty. Her passive is called Relentless. Successive hits on the same target deal an additional damage based on hero level, physical damage. This effect stacks and is triggered by any damage from Sparrow. So if she hits abilities on the same target, she might deal 100 damage, 120, 140. It has 4 or 5 stacks max, but it really adds up, especially due to her ultimate. Left click, basic, ranged attack, bow shot. Right click, a piercing shot. While holding Sparrow casts a powerful arrow that does up to 50 physical damage to all enemies in the line up to 250 units away. So this is her snipe. She charges up, it goes through all minions, and it has like roughly double the range of her ultimate, her standard attack. So it's very good for finishing off heroes that might be trying to run away since she has no movement speed buffs or debuffs. Q, hail of arrows. Sparrow rain down arrows in an area dealing 222 physical damage over 4 seconds. So it's basically like Gideon's Q. An AoE that deals damage to minions and enemies. Except it lasts for longer periods of time and deals less damage. Invigorate. Sparrow gains 40 attack speed for the next 3 shots. Should be quite self-explanatory. Attack speed in this game, which you might have known or which you might get to later, is basically percentages, so she attacks 40% faster for the next 3 shots. Her ultimate is called Inner Fire. So she fires, every shot she fires is... her standard attack splits into 3 arrows that fires in sort of a cone shape in front of her for the next 10 seconds. And those arrows are penetrating. Side arrows deals 30, 60, 90% of your primary attack damage. I assume the values are for level 1 ultimate, level 2 ultimate, level 3 ultimate. But the fact is, 1 is piercing, and secondly it has more people. It's like, if the enemy is in a team fight or you're hiding behind minions, you can just use your ultimate and just hit everybody. And again, remember this one stacks. So she can be quite effective, but she's very rooted, or very, like, she can't have any escapes on movement speed. Then we have Steel. She's a tank slash fighter, mainly a tank. See, he's a very buff guy. His affinities are intellect and order. 1 basic attack, 5 ability power, 3 durability, 6 mobility, and 4 difficulty. His passive called Unstoppable Force. Steel has 15% crowd control reduction. Left click, a physical punch, normal punch. Right click is shield block. He puts up a shield, reducing incoming damage by adding physical damage and energy damage while reducing his max movement speed. So he pops up the shield in front of him, which makes him take less damage, but he's also like penalized by moving slower. Q, charge. Steel charges forward, dealing 100 physical damage and applying knockback to any enemies he hits. The knockback is sort of depending on how he hits them, so if you manage to hit them like with the side, they'll fly to the side. If you hit them directly forward, they'll fly forward. It's a very good way of disrupting positioning of the enemy or stopping a charging ultimate. His E is called Force Shield. This is a very multi-tool ability, so I'll like split it up. Steel creates an energy wall that blocks enemy projectiles, applies to enemies to touch it, and shield to teammates that applies, it's supposed to say applies slow to enemies that touch it, and shield to teammates that touch it. So he throws up this wall that blocks physical, all shots basically, and that even counts very strong abilities like Sparrow's ultimate and Twin Blast ultimate. If himself or allies run through it, they get a shield, and if an enemy runs through it, they are slowed. So you can use this shield many different ways. And a good shield player is one who knows when to utilize it and how. His ultimate is called Shield Slam. Steel slams down on target area, dealing 308 physical damage to all enemies caught in it, also applying a stun. So what you do is you get this ground area you target, and he slowly jumps into the air and then he slams down on it after like a second or something. It has a decent area, but it can be pretty hard to hit again because of the 1 to 2 seconds delay. It deals a ton of damage, even for a tank, and it stuns all enemies in it, so it's a very good initiator and like to stop chasing. And then last for now we have Twin Blast. He is Fury and Fury. Yes, it's supposed to say 9 basic attack, again another bug. 2 ability power, 8 durability. Oh, it's because we have steel stats, I think. Nope, nope. Alright. Alright, those stats are kind of bugged. He basically has a ton of attack power, not really any ability power. He's not durable at all, and he has decent mobility, and his difficulty is very low. Twin Blast is like an AD carry, he's the AD carry. He's the sort of noob-friendly beginner AD carry no-brainer. His passive is on the roll. Twin Blast has increased default attack speed. Very straightforward. Standard attack, normal ranged attack. His right click is called Rocket Dash. Twin Blast dives in the direction he's moving, so that's a small dash. His Q is an attack speed boost that boosts by 5 attack speed for 5 seconds. His E is a grenade. He fires a grenade target location. After a short delay, the grenade explodes, dealing 12.5 physical damage to slowing enemies. So, it's mainly for slowing. It's not very effective for killing minions. His standard attacks are more effective at that. And here comes his no-brain ultimate. Twin Blast fires a salvo rocket that pierces through minions and deals 60 physical damage in an area they hit. So 60 damage is not correct. It's more like 300, 400 damage per hit. You can kill 3 people with that ultimate easily. One thing that's very interesting is that it stacks both on physical damage and attack speed. So you will only ever get like 6 or 8 or 10 shots, however it is. But if you have more attack speed, you will get those 10 shots out faster, making it way more effective. So you can either choose to build Twin Blast a very, very heavy damage shot ultimate, or you can make him shoot more times and shoot faster, so he can get it out and then get away again. He is the easiest AD carry to use. But he can very easily be disrupted and stopped by enemies if they're worth anything. So, I hope that helped. I apologize for my lack of professionalism, but I hope you got something from it, and yeah, I look forward to seeing you in game. Hopefully gonna fight you. See ya.